My ex-girlfriend got pregnant. Let's get a divorce.
He showed no signs of remorse. He probably didn't think he did anything wrong. Normally, I would be furious with his attitude after he cheated on me. But I was. Well, then you're in charge of your mom's caregiving from now on. I smiled as I said it. Steve gave me a puzzled look.
You're supposed to handle that.
How shameless could he be? Though I was dumbfounded inside, I kept smiling. No way, especially since that ex-girlfriend of yours. Hearing that, Steve nodded like he finally understood. And just like that, we got divorced smoothly. A week later, my phone lit up with a frantic call from Steve. "What do you want now?" I asked, though I could already guess the reason. I tried hard to hold back my laughter and kept my tone calm.
This wasn't part of the deal.
"What on earth are you talking about? I don't understand at all." He started shouting over the phone. That's when I couldn't help but burst out laughing. "My name is Charlotte Brown. I'm 45, a registered nurse. I've wanted to be a nurse ever since elementary school. I was involved in a car accident on my way to school and ended up hospitalized.
It's okay. You'll be better soon.
I was overwhelmed with anxiety, but a kind nurse spoke gently to me and gave me strength. Thanks to her, I recovered and returned to school. That's when I decided I wanted to be a nurse."
We're cheering you on, sweetie.
Yeah, you'll make an amazing nurse.
With my parents' support, I pursued my dream and became a nurse. There have been tough times, but it's rewarding. I'm genuinely glad I became a nurse.
You're such a wonderful nurse.
One day during work, I got close to a patient. She was a single mom who had raised her son alone for years. Just as her son became independent and she was about to enjoy time for herself, she collapsed from exhaustion.
I ended up being a burden to my son after all. It's so embarrassing.
That's not true. She always said things like that, and I'd always reassure her and listen. Eventually, she opened up to me and started talking about her son.
I wish you were my daughter-in-law.
She started saying that a lot.
Mom, don't bother the nurse like that.
Her son, Steve, would often say with an awkward smile. I never imagined I'd end up marrying him at that point.
Charlotte, would you mind exchanging contact info with me?
What? One day, when her son, Steve, came to visit her at the hospital, he asked and we exchanged contact information and began to get to know each other. Eventually, we started dating after he confessed his feelings, and after several years, we got married.
I'm so happy to have you as my daughter now.
Steve's mom was genuinely overjoyed, and I led a normal but happy married life.
Do you have the night shift tonight?
Yeah, that's right.
I'll probably be late because of overtime, so I'll just grab something simple for dinner.
Steve was understanding about my job and respected my decision to continue working as a nurse, even after we got married. On the other hand, he worked for a large corporation. Since he was seen as a rising star, he was often given extra work and had to stay late frequently. As both a nurse and his wife, I worried about his health. Just don't overdo it, okay?
I'll be fine. You shouldn't push yourself too hard either, Charlotte.
When we first got married, we looked out for each other like that. But everything changed when his mom was discharged from the hospital.
Charlotte, can you take care of Mom?
Me? Steve asked me to take care of his mother. After years of pushing herself and a long hospital stay, she now needed caregiving. I suggested that we rely on a professional care facility, but he countered with, "But you're a professional, aren't you?" To be honest, caregiving at home is physically and mentally exhausting. No matter how kind she wasn't my biological mother. She was someone I had to tiptoe around, which was draining. If I were being paid, it would be different, but doing it for free at home was another story. Sure, but what about when I'm at work? I wanted to express my honest thoughts, but I still hesitated. So I tried to hint that I couldn't do it.
We can live just fine on my salary alone, right?
What do you mean by that?
Quit that tough nursing job and take care of Mom.
His words left me stunned. I had told Steve countless times how much being a nurse meant to me, how it was my childhood dream, and how hard I worked to achieve it. Every time he would say, "Charlotte, you're such a hard worker." Yet here he was, asking me to quit as if it was nothing. Do you even understand how much pride I take in my work as a nurse?
I get it, but do you really think Mom could get along with the people at a care facility?
His response left me speechless. Steve's mother, Carol, was a sociable and funny woman once she opened up. But she could be difficult at first. She often said things like, "I'm such a useless person," which made conversations exhausting. When I first met her, I was still a new nurse, so I made a point to listen to her stories patiently. That helped her open up to me, but listening to self-deprecating comments over and over was tough.
There's no one else Mom trusts like you. Please, Charlotte.
Steve said this and pleaded with me. With him acting that desperate, I couldn't say no. All right.
Thank you, Charlotte.
And so I reluctantly nodded.
I'm finally discharged. I'll be counting on you, Charlotte.
Of course, I'll do my best. Carol smiled at me, looking a bit tired but genuinely happy. There was no way I could say I didn't want to care for her. So I put on my usual smile and answered cheerfully. From then on, I began my days of being at her beck and call.
Charlotte, could I trouble you for a moment?
Sure, I'm coming. Carol had given birth to him in her 40s, so she was already considered elderly. Because of that, she needed my help for almost everything. On top of that, she'd often start conversations out of the blue with, "Oh, Charlotte, you know what?" Even when there wasn't anything she needed, it was hard to step away from her side except for chores.
So, Charlotte, why don't you have kids?
One day, she asked me this during my usual caregiving and small talk. Well, I do think having kids would be nice. If I had a child, it might make things less suffocating, as I wouldn't be alone with her all the time. Plus, I've always liked children. Raising a child would be tough, but I'm sure their presence alone would bring joy.
Well, you'd better not wait too long. Having kids when you're older is really tough.
I smiled and replied, "You're probably right." The truth is, I wanted kids. But Steve wasn't supportive.
I'm not really good with kids, so I don't think I want my own.
He had said when we talked about it before. Since I quit my nursing job, Steve had been working overtime and weekends, saying, "I've got to earn enough for both of us." As a result, he was rarely home, and it was hard to even think about starting a family. I feel like I'm suffocating. Spending time alone with my mother-in-law feels suffocating. Whenever I tell her I'm going to visit my parents or friends, she always insists, Please come back soon. I can't do anything without you, Charlotte. Because of that, I can barely go out. Even so, when I do manage to leave, Steve looks after his mother.
Hey, Charlotte, don't you feel guilty leaving Mom behind?
What?
She kept saying she felt lonely without you.
So what? I feel lonely too when I can't see my own parents or friends. Am I not allowed to see my parents and friends?
It's not that, but don't you feel bad for her?
If that's the case, why don't you stay by her side? Stop pushing it all onto me. I responded sharply to Steve's selfish words. He tried to justify himself with, well, it's just, or, but. I cited his excuses. I've made a lot of sacrifices, you know. I gave up my dream job and have been taking care of your mother all this time. And now, just for going out for one day, you're giving me a hard time?
I know. I feel bad about that.
Think carefully about whose parent I'm taking care of before you speak. Hearing that, Steve fell silent with a sullen expression. He didn't used to be like this. He used to be considerate and kind. If you keep saying things like that, I won't be able to stay with you and Carol anymore.
I'm sorry. I'm exhausted. I shouldn't have said that.
Finally, Steve apologized to me. It's fine as long as you understand. I forgave him in that moment, but the thought of divorce flickered in my mind. However, if I divorced him, there'd be no one left to take care of Carol. What am I supposed to do now? I muttered to myself when I was alone. In the end, I couldn't get divorced and continued caring for my mother-in-law.
Excuse me, are you Charlotte Brown?
Yes, I am. On my way home from grocery shopping, a flashy-looking woman called out to me. She gave me a smug smile and looked me up and down.
Just like Steve said, you really are plain looking.
Excuse me, that's extremely rude.
Oh, really?
She smirked at me mockingly. Annoyed, I decided to end the conversation. If you have no reason to be here, I'll be on my way.
Enjoy your life while you still can.
She tossed that parting shot at me as I turned away. What the heck was that about? Baffled by the strange encounter, I decided to head home.
Charlotte, is something wrong?
Carol asked me, looking concerned. After some hesitation, I decided to tell her about the woman.
That might have been Amelia.
Amelia? According to Carol, her name was Amelia Lawson. She was apparently Steve's ex-girlfriend.
Amelia and Steve dated when he first started working.
She claimed she was of legal age when they started dating. But in reality, she was still a high schooler. That's why Carol opposed their relationship and made them break up.
Her parents apologized profusely and took her back to their hometown, but it seems she's back now.
A bad feeling washed over me as Carol spoke. And that feeling soon became reality.
Fancy seeing you again, Charlotte.
Quite the coincidence. Amelia had appeared again, as if she had been waiting for me. She called out to me with the same smug smile. Do you need something? I'm really busy.
Busy? You're just a stay-at-home wife, right?
Excuse me? How does she know I'm a stay-at-home wife? Her comment made me freeze.
You claim you're busy, but you're just lying. Steve's way too good for a liar like you.
I'm not lying. I take care of my mother-in-law after all.
That's nothing. So why don't you step aside?
I didn't understand what she meant and stood there, stunned. She gave me a triumphant smile and rubbed her stomach. That night, Steve came home from work.
Charlotte, I want a divorce.
Steve brought it up as soon as he got home from work. He said it so casually that I asked him for a reason.
Amelia is pregnant with my child.
At that moment, I finally understood why she had been rubbing her belly. And at the same time, any remaining affection I had for Steve vanished. So while he was excused about overtime and weekend shifts, pushing all the caregiving onto me, he'd been seeing with his ex all along.
You know, younger is better.
Oh, really? And what do you think about that, Steve? Steve gave a smug grin.
My ex-girlfriend got pregnant. Let's get a divorce.
He showed absolutely no remorse. He didn't seem to think he'd done anything wrong. Most people would be enraged by such a situation, but I was. Well, then you're in charge of your mom's caregiving from now on. I smiled as I said it. Steve looked puzzled.
You're supposed to handle that.
How shameless could he be? I was appalled inside, but I kept smiling. Nope. After all, your ex asked to take my place, didn't she? She can take over the caregiving too. Steve's face shifted as if something had finally clicked. And just like that, we got divorced smoothly. A week later, I received a flood of calls from Steve on my phone. What do you want now? I asked, though I already knew the reason. Suppressing the urge to laugh, I kept my tone calm.
This wasn't part of the deal.
What are you talking about? I have no idea what you mean. At my words, Steve started shouting over the phone. That's when I finally burst into laughter.
Amelia got into a fight with my mom and left the house.
It turned out that Steve had moved Amelia into the house as soon as I left. Naturally, Carol was shocked.
Where's Charlotte? Where did she go?
Apparently, she had been asking about me. At first, Amelia had been sweet to her.
Don't worry. I'll be here to support you.
She spoke gently, but Carol's bad habit emerged.
It's my fault. Charlotte left because I'm such a burden.
She lamented like that daily, and eventually, Amelia broke down. She reportedly told her, "You're so clingy, and you're exhausting." This led to a massive argument.
I can't stay in this place any longer.
And with that, Amelia stormed out.
Wasn't Amelia supposed to take over everything for you?
I wouldn't know. She's the one who said she'd take my place. Well, Amelia clearly hadn't known what she was getting herself into. She didn't realize how elderly Carol really was, how prone she was to pessimism, and how much physical care she needed. All of it had been beyond what Amelia had expected. Unable to handle it, she left.
I don't even know where Amelia's family lives. Do you know where she went?
Oh, probably back to her ex-husband's place.
Her ex-husband?
Steve's voice sounded stunned. I couldn't believe he hadn't known. You really didn't know anything about Amelia, did you?
And what about you? How do you know?
I hired someone to look into her. When I found out about their affair, I used my savings from before our marriage to hire a private investigator. That's how I learned Amelia had been married before, and that there was no telling who the father of her baby was.
What? So the baby might not be mine?
Apparently, she got pregnant while her ex-husband was away on a business trip.
I see.
Steve's voice sounded almost relieved. If it was his child, it'd be undeniable proof of his infidelity, and he had no reason to feel relieved. Aren't you the one who always said you weren't good with kids?
I know, but thinking about the future, I figured maybe I should have one.
I was dumbfounded. It wasn't that Steve wanted a child, but he just thought having one would be useful for his future.
Then why would she go back to her ex-husband?
Who knows? Don't ask me everything. I'll give you the address and go ask her yourself. I gave him the address and hung up. Knowing Steve, he wasn't thinking things through. He'd probably show up at Amelia's ex-husband's place unannounced and end up digging his own grave. I muttered to myself with a smile. I could already see exactly where their story was headed. I'll make sure to finish things off properly. With that, I set my plan into motion. I gathered all the evidence of their affair and headed to a certain location.
Why are you here?
You're the one who walked out.
It was Amelia's ex-husband's house. In front of the house, Steve and Amelia were having a heated argument.
You promised you'd take care of my mom if I supported you and the baby.
You never told me she was that kind of woman. Just go home now. I can't reconcile with my ex-husband if you're around.
Why would he even want to get back together with someone as troublesome as you? At my words, both of them snapped their heads toward me.
How dare you trap me?
I didn't trap you at all. I never told Amelia about Carol's personality or how hard caregiving could be. But I didn't lie either. She just assumed I was living an easy life as a stay-at-home wife. Was I wrong?
Well, no, but...
And you, of all people, someone who cheated with a married man, have no right to criticize me. That shut her up. I had you investigated, you know.
What?
I heard you're quite popular with men. I smiled sweetly, and Amelia froze. It seemed I'd hit a nerve. Since high school, you've been pretending to be older and approaching lots of guys.
Well,
And among them, you chose Steve because, while he didn't have much experience with women, he had a stable income. Steve turned to Amelia with a look of disbelief. Amelia quickly averted her gaze. But Steve's mom, who was worried about her late-born son, got in the way. That should have been your first warning. She's a handful.
Hey, don't talk about my mom like that.
Steve, who had been silent up until now, finally spoke up. She's hard to deal with.
What?
You know it, don't you? You complained to me after just one day of taking care of her. Steve averted his eyes again. He knew his mother was difficult, which is why he pushed the responsibility onto me in the first place. You two are the worst, and I'll be demanding compensation from both of you. At that, they both looked at me in shock. You didn't think I'd sue for damages?
What? You agreed to the divorce so easily, and now there's a baby coming.
That's no excuse to escape responsibility for your affair. I showed them the evidence. That showed pictures of the two of them entering a hotel and boldly kissing in public. I'll make sure to get the compensation I deserve, and I'm giving these to your ex-husband as well.
what?
That was the plan from the start. Take responsibility. Amelia crumpled to the ground. She must have realized there was no hope of reconciling with her ex-husband.
Charlotte.
You'll regret betraying me. I coldly dismissed Steve as he looked at me with pleading eyes. He hung his head.
I just wanted to be happy.
You can't find true happiness when you sacrifice others for your own sake. I told him that as he muttered bitterly. Then, as planned, I handed over the evidence to Amelia's ex-husband. Are you sure that baby is really Steve's? I left that final bombshell before heading home. The truth was, Amelia had reconnected with an old fling from her school days. That's why her ex-husband found out and divorced her. After that, she ended up running to Steve, who had been her affair partner. And now she's trying to get back together with her ex? What was she thinking? Of course, her ex-husband refused to reconcile. And after getting rejected by her other flings, Amelia went back to Steve. Steve, still thinking the baby might be his, took her back.
But they're fighting every day. Amelia doesn't lift a finger to help.
Carol told me all of this. Although she still needed care, her mental faculties were fine. Her dependency on me had been due to her fear of living with a body that couldn't function well.
I'm really sorry. I was so focused on myself that I pushed you to the brink, Charlotte.
Apparently, she'd overheard my arguments with Steve and apologized. Since then, I felt like her dependency had eased. On top of that, calling me Charlotte in front of Amelia had been her way of annoying her.
Don't worry about me. I'll make sure they pay the compensation and stay out of your life as much as possible.
She spoke confidently, but with a tinge of sadness in her voice. All right, I'll be counting on you. That being said, I have no intention of seeing Carol again. The fact that she mentally cornered me hasn't changed, and I no longer have the energy to be involved with that family. Well, I'd better get moving. After divorcing Steve, I immediately started job hunting. Since I'd been a stay-at-home wife for a while, I decided to start with a part-time job at first. For now, I'll be leaning on my parents.
You can always stay here.
That's right. You're our precious daughter.
After leaving that house, I moved back to my childhood home. Both of my parents, who are younger than my former mother-in-law, still work, so I can live comfortably even with a part-time job.
By the way, your new workplace isn't the same as before, right?
Yeah, I didn't want to risk running into Steve. When I consulted with the director of my previous hospital, they referred me to a hospital their acquaintance owned. It's close to my parents' house, so commuting isn't an issue either.
Just don't overwork yourself. You're too kind and tend to hold everything in.
I know. I nodded with a wry smile at my mom's concerned words.
Switching jobs really was the right call.
What?
Your ex-husband came to our hospital.
Not long after I started working, I got a call from my previous hospital's director. They told me that Steve had come by asking around, "Is Charlotte here?"
He wasn't even a patient, so we had security escort him out.
I see. I'm really sorry for the trouble.
It's not your fault. Just stay safe, all right?
I will, I replied and ended the call. I never thought he'd actually show up at the hospital. I've finally gotten my freedom. Why can't he just leave me alone? My current coworkers know about my situation. They're all good people and told me, we'll kick him out if he shows up. I really am lucky. Though I had bad luck with men, I've been blessed with wonderful people around me. Seriously, Steve, you're the one who asked for the divorce. Just give it up already. I muttered as I deleted his contact information. Steve's probably trying to find me to ask for reconciliation. He's completely oblivious to Amelia's true nature and is probably regretting everything now.
I'm always here if you need to talk.
Thank you. Feeling grateful for the support from the people around me, I focused on my work. Even though it had been a while since I last worked, I was finding it surprisingly enjoyable. I really do love this job. I still have some rust to shake off, and my body doesn't move as easily as it used to. but seeing the patient's smiles makes me so happy.
You seem so full of life.
My mom said with a gentle smile as she watched me. I returned her smile, truly satisfied with my current life. Yes, I'm having the time of my life. I was able to say that from the bottom of my heart. A week later.
There you are, Charlotte.
Geez, why are you here? Steve appeared right in front of me. It seemed like he'd gone to every hospital in the area, searching for me.
I was wrong. That woman bewitched me like some evil witch.
Wow. I was honestly creeped out by Steve's words. How could he say this to get back together? What do you want?
Amelia ruined my life.
Without even being asked, Steve started ranting about himself. Apparently, my mother-in-law never liked Amelia and constantly compared her to me. At first, Amelia put up with it, but when she gave birth, she left the house.
Looking back, the baby was born way too early to be mine. And he has blue eyes.
Now that he mentioned it, I remembered hearing that one of Amelia's flings was a Caucasian guy with blue eyes. Apparently, the baby was his son. So what?
Well,
Did you think I'd feel sorry for you and take you back? I said coldly, and Steve looked confused. I had always been lenient with Steve and had rarely ever pushed him away so coldly. Even when we argued, I always ended up forgiving Steve, so he probably couldn't believe my reaction now. Do you really think you can betray me and still be forgiven?
but I'm stuck raising a child that isn't even mine.
So what? It's the child of the Amelia you loved enough to cheat with. Why don't you take responsibility and raise him? I said that and immediately turned my back on him.
Wait,
Steve reached out toward me as if begging. At that moment,
Enough already.
Step away from the nurse.
my patients, who had been watching, shouted at him.
Security, it's him. He's harassing the nurse.
wait,
Steve was caught by the security guard my coworker had called and was handed over to the police.
Are you okay?
Yes, I'm fine. My coworker, who promised to get rid of Steve, did exactly that. I thanked them once again. Although Steve wasn't arrested, it seemed that the situation reached his workplace. Unable to endure the judgmental stares from his colleagues, he resigned. Well, I'll give him credit for at least paying the compensation. Steve used his severance pay to cover my alimony and even paid for Amelia's share after she disappeared. He's likely in for some rough times ahead. As for Amelia, she bounced from house to house, living with different men. But she wasn't young anymore. It's no surprise she's being ignored by everyone now. Eventually, she had nowhere left to go and ended up under the watch of some shady people. After reading the report from the detective and learning how it all ended, I finally let out a sigh of relief, feeling freed at last. It's good to finally cut ties completely. There was still a lingering feeling, though. One thing was about my former mother-in-law. Even though I didn't want to see her again, I still felt some affection for her after caring for her for so long. And then there's Amelia's child. The child Amelia had forced upon Steve. That boy was innocent in all of this. I hope Steve takes proper care of him. Steve was always conscious of how society viewed him. He had already been forced to quit his job after being subjected to judgmental stares at the office. He probably wouldn't abandon the child and risk being judged by the neighbors as well. Well, it's not my problem. Oh, I need to get ready. Today, I was going to treat the coworker who helped me to dinner as a thank you. To be honest, I wasn't thinking about marriage anymore. Jumping into marriage recklessly had cost me precious years of my life. So I planned to enjoy being on my own for a while. Time to make up for all the time I held myself back. I murmured that to myself and left the house with a smile. A few years later, I never thought I'd get married again at this age. After everything, I began dating the coworker who had helped me, and we eventually decided to get married. At my age, having children was no longer an option. Still, he told me he wanted to be with me, so I decided to remarry.
I'm sure he'll be fine.
Yes, this time, be happy.
By the time of my second marriage, my parents were around the same age as my former mother-in-law had been. But they kept a respectful distance and watched over me from afar.
By the way, I found this in the mailbox.
Mom handed me an envelope. There was no name written on it, but I recognized the handwriting. I hope you find happiness. Who does he think he is to say that? This distinctive handwriting, it had to be Steve's. I didn't know how he found out about my marriage, but sending a letter instead of showing up in person was probably a sign that he'd matured. Too little, too late. Inside the envelope was a picture of a boy with blue eyes, frowning. What was he hoping to achieve by sending this to me?
He probably wants to say, "It's unfair that I'm struggling while you're happy," doesn't he?
Mom's words made sense. I'd heard rumors that Amelia's child had grown up to be a spoiled brat. Maybe Steve sent the letter out of self-pity, thinking, "Poor me, raising a difficult child while you live a happy life." After thinking it over, I tore up the letter. It has nothing to do with me. And with that, I put Steve behind me and moved forward with my life,